Clearly, this is not the outcome Black Lives Matter anti-cop activists want, but it is the outcome that I predicted. You cannot hang out with drug dealers, you cannot have drugs moved through your home, and you cannot stand next to an accused drug dealer firing at officers and expect things to turn out well. It is a tragedy that Breonna Taylor is dead. You better believe it is. It is also a tragedy. Facts will not matter when rioters will most surely take to the streets tonight. Well, to discuss this further, please welcome former U.S. Attorney for D.C., Joe diGenova, to the program, as well as former senior U.S. Justice Department official Victoria Toensing. Both of you, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you.
Joe, let me ask you, as you heard the Attorney General in Kentucky spell out all of the facts as they see them in this case, it was clear you couldn't charge any of these officers with the murder of Breonna Taylor. Am I right? Is the Attorney General right?
Oh, you're right, and the Attorney General is right. Remember, as you said earlier, this was a grand jury conducted by the state. We have an African-American Attorney General. The process was very clear. Neighbors testified that the officers announced themselves. The individual inside, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, fired the first shot. The officers fired in self-defense. The boyfriend, is responsible for her death. If he had simply put his weapon on the floor and allowed them to do their job, she would be alive today.
Yeah, so it looks like they had a witness that said they did actually knock on the door and announce themselves. When no one answered, they then busted down the door and went inside. Now, Victoria, when you're hanging out in alleged drug houses with alleged drug dealers and then ultimately firing at a police officer, you put yourself in a very bad situation. And I'm with your husband here. You cannot blame the officers. You've got to blame the drug dealers.
Yeah, well, let me explain, because I was a federal prosecutor, and the kinds of no-knock warrants are really needed, and they've had a bad name, and they're needed to protect the police. When you're dealing with dangerous people, as I used to prosecute drug dealers and terrorists, the police don't know what's on the other side of that door, and for them to say, hey, police, open up, they could be met with a barrage of bullets. So they have their place. They just need to have some more training. I find fault with the Louisville police in that all of these police officers did not have body cameras to help their case, and we should never have any kind of search warrants without police having body cameras.
I am fully in agreement with you on that. I think the more body cameras, the better. And Joe, as we were looking at some video from protests starting in New York City, I think we're going to see these start to unfold all across the country. But with technology today, there's no reason why an officer going into a planned raid should not have a body camera on them. I think it would go a long way to putting minds at ease about police officers' actions long before it's going to show ill behavior.
Oh, there's just no question that body cameras are a great, great boon to law enforcement, because by and large, they show the justifiable behavior of police officers almost uniformly. And of course, they're there when officers act improperly. So it's a great addition to the law enforcement toolbox, and they ought to be mandatory in every department.
And I want to add, Grant, that I want to say something on behalf of that Attorney General, who is just the first Black Attorney General in the history of Kentucky, but more importantly, the first Republican Attorney General in about 80 years. The president even quoted him today, your statements that you had on mob justice is not justice. And he announced, his whole news conference for about an hour was with such force and stating the facts. And then he said, I want to have a commission study this issue, and I'm bringing in people, police officers and defense lawyers and citizens, to have a commission and tell us how we can do this better. And what a great man, and what a rising star.
I love this guy, Daniel Cameron. I do. I think he is an absolute rising star. We're going to see him on a national stage very soon. I want to play a soundbite from him, which I also thought was very telling and well thought out, and really, sadly, of what we can expect. But listen.
There will be celebrities, influencers, and activists who, having never lived in Kentucky, will try to tell us how to feel. Let's not give in to their attempts to influence our thinking or capture our emotions.
Joe, celebrities aren't around police officers and investigations very often. They have no idea what goes into the mind of a police officer, yet they will vilify them at the flip of a coin or the drop of a hat, won't they?
They will indeed. The Rob Reiners of this world will be quick to criticize, totally ignorant of the facts and circumstances and the law. But that's not what it's about for them. This is about tearing down the system, just as it is for Black Lives Matter, which has removed the history of its origins in Marxism from its website. So I think you're absolutely right. And right now, what we need are more people like this great Attorney General in law enforcement and in the Attorney General's offices around the country, getting out lots of good information.
And significantly, the mob did come to his house and protest and demanded indictments. And he
Of course they did, Victoria. They'll be out there, I'm sure, for days, if not weeks to come. So great to see you both. The legal dynamic duo, Joe diGenova, Victoria Tunsing. We always appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Grant.
Good to see you. Coming up on Stinchfield, folks.